My name is Catherine Vachon. Most people know me by Kat, and I'm a business development manager here at Vernovis. And we're a locally owned and operated organization here in the Cincinnati and Columbus areas. And we're focusing on building a community for professional women. Our vision for this community is for women at all levels in their career and career path to have a place to be able to connect and network and find professional development, mentorship opportunities, and networking as well. So we want to build a group that's timely and relevant for you, that also gives you space to discuss topics, challenges, and successes that only working women can really understand. So it's my pleasure to introduce Stephanie Polen. She is the president of the Polen Group and founder of Unshakeable Women. She works with teams as well as ours and individuals as they navigate transformation processes. Stephanie has probably more than 20 years of executive experience leading teams, including managing $120 million worth of P&Ls and teams of over 100 people through massive business transformation while driving their bottom line results as well. So Stephanie, thanks for joining us.
Kat, I'm so glad to be here. What a great group we've got showing up. I keep seeing more and more names pop up in the chat that are joining us. So it's great to see everybody, great to be here. My goal for today is really to get us started in defining what it means to build your personal infrastructure. So as we go through the day today, what I hope happens is that you have a couple of aha moments and a couple of, I haven't thought about that before moments, and a lot of things to think about when we leave, and hopefully some new connections to process that with. So that's my goal for the day. And I think before we really dive into it, what I'd like to do is in the chat, let's take stock here. Let's define, what do we think your personal infrastructure is made of? So tell me in the chat, when you hear personal infrastructure, what do you think of? Personal infrastructure. Community, absolutely. Your core foundation, your coworkers, your knowledge, your values, support system. Yeah, here we go. People you can rely on, relationships, board of directors. Oh, somebody's speaking my language. Personal board of directors. That's awesome. Right? Your network, your personal infrastructure. Absolutely. Absolutely. All of those things are absolutely true. Your reputation, your network, your craft. Awesome. All of those things are fantastic. Today, I'm going to pull just a few of those out as a guide for what building your personal infrastructure looks like. And for me, it looks like this. It looks like building your why and understanding what your why is. Why do you do what you do? It's about your strengths. It's about your people. And it's about your mindset. So we captured a lot of those things in the chat. So I'm glad that we're all here on the same page about what our personal infrastructure looks like. So let's do one more check-in before we really dive into the content here. We've got a poll. I'd love for you guys to just give me your thoughts on here. Let's take a quick poll. How solid do you think your personal infrastructure is? When you look at that and you say strengths and mindset, how solid do you think your personal infrastructure is? Let's take stock real quick and see how everybody's feeling today.
And Stephanie, I'm not sure if you can see this, but we've got quite a few results so far. Leading the pack here is firm, but a little wobbly in places. Tied at second is rocky and solid. And then coming in at the bottom is it's like sand and it's rock solid.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, that's great, everybody. Thanks for giving me your feedback. Firm, but a little wobbly in places. That sounds about right. That sounds about right. Sounds about right for most of us. Sounds about right for me on any given day. But there's always something in one of these areas that I can be spending some more time on. So let's dive in to your why. You guys have probably heard this phrase that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, from the ever famous Simon Sinek. Now today, of course, we're not talking about branding, and we're not talking about buying anything, but this idea is really where I want to start when we start to think about infrastructure and we start to think about really what the core of who you are and how you show up is really like. Because in my years of coaching individuals, when people shift to really being grounded in their why, that's when I see the biggest change in momentum and the biggest change in focus in the way that they are pursuing both their personal and professional goals. So we operate oftentimes on the surface and don't really dig into the why. So we're going to spend a little bit of time with this today, because this is what I see happen, is that people really change when they connect to that. So you've probably seen this model. If you haven't seen Simon's TED Talk, I would encourage you to Google it. It's a good 17 minutes of your time. It's been out for a while. It's been popular for a while, so it might be old news to you, but I would encourage you to watch it again. I actually did that this morning and picked up some things that I had forgotten about. So we've kind of consumed it and said, okay, I understand what's your why. But listening to it again actually brought some new things to light for me today too. So the concept here, just to make sure we're all on the same page, is that in the center of this idea of the golden circle is our why. So why am I here? What is my purpose? What am I here to actually do? So again, many of us have heard of this, but when's the last time you thought about what your why actually is? And I ask that because as I've been working with people through the pandemic, I think our whys are changing. I'm hearing that from a lot of people about their goals for their career, their goals for their life, how they want to travel, how they want to be with their family and friends, and the priority and the order of things have changed. People have a new perspective. So it might be a good time to go back and check in on the why, how we do things, and what specifically we do. So let's break these down just a little bit. Many of us operate on these outside circles. So we're going to start in the spot where it is clearest and then get into the spot where it's the fuzziest. All right. So when we talk about what we do, very specific, right? These are our roles. This is the products that we do. This is the what. It's tangible. It's visible. It's nameable. So we spend a lot of time out here in the what when we are in relationship. How is the next layer in. So what are our strengths, our guiding principles, our values? A lot of that came out when I asked about what your personal infrastructure is. Many of you named that. So this is what we're after. This is kind of the how you do what you do. And then finally, the why, right? Your purpose, your cause for belief. Most people quit before they get to the why. They spend a lot of their life living in the what and the how. What is my title? What's the next title? What's the next role? What's the next project? What's the next skill that I need to acquire? We spend a lot of time in those outside circles. And when you spend time in the outside circle without connecting to that inside one, that's when we get wobbly in our infrastructure, right? That's when we feel like we're firm, but there are some wobbly pieces. That wobbliness, that's a word, has to do with maybe not being connected as strongly as you could be to what your why is. So let's take a look. Some of the opportunities for what's your why. How might you answer that question? Any of these are good opportunities to talk about what your why is. Maybe it's to empower women in technology to own their expertise, to spread joy, to inspire families to care for their environment, right? So why tends to have a longer term inspirational view to why you do what you do. But when I ask most people, tell me about your why. Tell me why you're in this field. Tell me why you're in this role, why you've chosen this career. I often hear things like this. Well, it was my parents' dream, right? Or my dad was in technology, or my mom was in technology and wanted me to be in tech too. Or I'm doing this because I want to get the next promotion, or I'm in this role right now just to get a paycheck, right? Those are not whys. Those are results. And results can be achieved and they're short term. So the next promotion and the next paycheck will motivate you only so far. And then what happens when you get that? What happens when you receive the promotion? What happens when you get the increase in your paycheck? Then what? If you're not operating from your why, then things can get a little wobbly, right? So if it's been a while since you've thought about your why, or maybe you've never thought about your why, this is not an opportunity to freak out and have to come up with some beautifully formed sentence, okay? What I hope that you will do instead is to be curious, right? To start to ask yourself why you're here, what your purpose is, where your passion is. And the way to do that is through being curious, not comparing, not assuming what someone else wants to have happen for you, but actually being curious. So when I work with women and we're coaching, when I ask this question, we do this work a lot of times. Many times the why is an outside in, right? It's someone else's expectation, or it's a societal influence, or, you know, you've seen someone else do this, and so you're headed that way. And that's a good place to start, but what does that actually mean for you? So again, when we start to break out why we're doing what we're doing, we can get really clear on the things that we want to work on, right? So a lot of times when I'm working with leaders, we have conversations about so many things to do and how to prioritize and what do I say yes to. When you know your why, when you operate from your why, what you say yes to is crystal clear, no exceptions. So understanding and having this as a part of your firm foundation is really important. So we're going to actually take an opportunity to practice this. So we're going to go to breakout rooms here in just a moment. And what we're going to do is we're going to practice working the why circle. All right. So let me show you what I mean by this. So we're going to work the why circle. As I mentioned, most of the time, people will operate from the outside in. So the what, the how, and the why. So when you get into your breakout rooms, introduce yourself in this way. Here's what it looks like. It looks like, hi, my name is Stephanie Polen. I'm the founder of Unshakeable Women. I offer coaching and group training sessions for women because I think women in leadership are awesome and amazing and fun. Okay, that's an outside in introduction. And then take a minute to try to turn it from the inside out, where we start with our why and work our way out into the how and the what. So the reverse of that would be, I believe that you are uniquely created, you're inherently valuable, and you're worthy of love and respect in all that you do. And I believe that when women come together in community and support one another, amazing things happen. And what I do is create a space for women to do that through group coaching and the Unshakeable Women Collective. Do you feel the difference in that? Right? You feel it's a big difference. We intuitively know that in the way that we buy from people and the way that we feel about brands and the leaders that we follow. So let's practice this. Okay. We're going to go into breakout rooms. I have a couple of rules before we go into breakout rooms. And that is primarily that we all agree that it's going to be awkward. It's going to be messy. And we're going to be brave and we're going to do it anyway. Okay. Can we all agree to that? Yes. Okay, so we're just going to get that out of the way. Nobody's got this figured out. No one's going to do this perfectly. We're probably going to laugh awkwardly and it's going to be fine. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to move into these breakout rooms. They're randomly assigned. There'll be 3 or 4 of you in a breakout room. We're going to be together for 12 minutes. So practice the inside out or the outside in and then the inside out, right? So we want you to get to know other women that are looking for developing themselves in the same way that you are. So this is a great chance to get to know one another. So we're going to spend 12 minutes in there. So everybody's got 3 or 4 minutes a piece. It's actually not that long. Okay. Please turn your video on if you're able to. I know most of you are probably eating lunch. It's okay if you get a little lettuce in your teeth. We'll tell you, we're those kind of people. So turn your video on so we get a chance to connect with each other. And again, the instructions here are to practice working the circle. Introduce yourselves the first time on the outside in, what you do, where you work, how you do it, why you do it, if you know that. And then practice again on the inside out. So if you've had experience doing this and someone else in your breakout room hasn't, share what you know. All right. And if you haven't done it before, give it a whirl. All right. For you.
Very inspiring.
Yeah.
Take care.
Tell me, say more. What happened? What did you talk about?
When we thought initially that we thought that doing the inside out was going to be more difficult, but once we really talked about our passions, we actually was able to say it. So
Really?
it's really inspiring to talk to people who care, because and just to say why this is why I do it, and people care, they want to make a difference.
Love it. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear it. So as you guys are coming back, let's talk about it. How did it go? What did you learn? Was it hard? Was it easy? Let's debrief it. You can take yourself off mute and let's talk about it. Or you want to put your feedback in the chat. That's for our introverts. You can do that too. What did you learn in your?
Yeah, Angela shared, she was with a great group of ladies with common challenges related to remote work, which I think a lot of us.
Awesome.
Yeah, Stephanie and I were just talking about the timing of her garbage man. And I'm sure many of us have frequent run-ins with, our kids or our pets, or if your spouse is still working from home with you or your partner, that can definitely be challenging.
We had a hard time distinguishing the what and the how. It kind of blended a little bit.
Yeah. That's okay, as long as you get the why separate from the what and the how. That's the important part. That's the important part. What else did you guys learn?
One thing that we found in our group is all of us said that we fell into our job. Like it wasn't the job that we saw or in our life grew up thinking, I want to be in that role. We all came into those roles and we're all thinking, although I personally love my job, some of the ladies are not inspired right now in their careers, but we're all thinking, if you could make a change, would we do that? And how is that a possibility? So that was interesting that we all kind of had that same thinking.
You bet. You bet. That is interesting. And I'm hearing that more and more, right? And I think, as I mentioned earlier, like the pandemic gave us time to think about it and helped us, reprioritize some things and maybe brought some of that to light in a way that maybe never would have happened before. So one of the silver linings. Anybody else?
I think from our group, we noticed that we're all actually, the four of us are all almost like in the rated industry. We're in software, IT, legal, compliance. So I think what we have noticed, we actually have a passion. We're in we're all, I think we're looking at, we're all I think social people.
Sure.
So because of this skill set that we have, we're gone into our work, bringing that skill set of being a social animal. I would say and that brings passion and love of the work that we do.
That's great.
And I think that is our why we're in the industry that we're in.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting that shows up in multiple different industries, right? But that's, if you're here to serve, if you're here to show up, if you're here to give whatever gift it is that you've been given to share with other people, it can manifest itself in lots of different ways, right? Yeah. And so how it shows up can be different for everybody. So thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing. And actually, that's a perfect tee up. So thank you for that, for the for the next section, which is your strengths, right? Oh. So the next pillar is about operating from your strengths. So let's define this one too. I always want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So a strength properly defined is not something that you're good at. I'm just gonna let that set for a minute, okay? A strength is something that you're good at is not a strength, it's an ability, all right? So here's the definition of what a strength really is. A strength is something that makes you feel strong, right? Like we're so used to coming up with all of these things that we have to put together to define what our strengths are, that the simple idea of the fact that it's something that makes you feel strong can feel a little bit mind-blowing, right? And so that information comes from Marcus Buckingham in his book, 9 Lies About Work. Marcus is the strengths guy. So I love the way that he breaks this down. So hopefully you guys are familiar with your strengths. I'll tell you just a teensy bit about me as an example here. So I'm obviously a personality profile junkie, have all of these and more, but this is part of what I do, right? Is using tools like this to help understand what your strengths are and how you're wired, all right? So it's really interesting information, but so what, right? So what? So any of these, the combination of things, do not actually define who I am, right? So when I think about the things that others would have defined as a strength of mine, one of them would have been, for example, I hear all the time, Stephanie, you're so great at like pulling together all of the details and getting all of the logistics together. Like you just really like corral people to get that done. I hate doing that. I absolutely hate it, right? But people that work with me will call that out as a strength. So it's not a strength by my definition because I don't feel strong doing it. I don't feel like I'm in the zone. I don't feel like I'm getting pleasure from doing it. No matter how good I am at doing it, that does not make it a strength if I don't feel strong while I'm doing it. Right? I feel strong when I'm brainstorming about the thing that we're supposed to be doing. And I feel strong when I'm talking to somebody and I'm energized about it. I don't feel strong about putting together a plan of action in an Excel spreadsheet to actually make that happen. Okay. So this is one of the things that I think is important for us to be reframing for ourselves as we think about our personal infrastructure and give ourselves the permission to think about what is it that actually makes us feel strong. So let's practice it in the chat. Tell me, what is it that makes you feel strong? Not what somebody else has defined for you, but what actually makes you feel strong? Knowledge, sense of humor, good. Being able to help someone, helping, yeah. Advice, strategy, being encouraging, organizing, giving, vulnerability, creativity, you bet. Walking, right? Let's do it. The things that make us feel strong, that's a strength, right? That's where our brain kicks in when our body's in motion. Creating something better for someone that makes their life better. Accountability, yeah. You could get around, Claudia, with some of that accountability. Let's use that strength wherever you can. Collaboration, knowledge, those are all wonderful things, right? Those are the things that make you feel strong. Now, if you looked at that, how much of that would show up on a personality profile? Right? How many of those things are going to show up in a performance review? Some of them might, some might not, right? But it's good for you to understand this is the second pillar of your personal infrastructure. What is it that actually makes you feel strong? So you have your why. This is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing. This is when I feel strong, that I'm putting that why in action. This is what this looks like. Okay. It's a great way to own that and way to be able to name it. And if that didn't come to mind for you right away, get your piece of paper out and let's spend some time thinking about it when we get done. All right. The next pillar then is your people. All right. How many of you have heard that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with? Right. It's a very popular way to think about things. So the question is, who are those people? And do they add, subtract, or multiply your dreams? So if you have a piece of paper handy, you got a Post-it note, grab it. Or you got a notes page open. Who are those 5 people? Put those 5 people down and put a plus, minus, or multiply next to their name. Let's do that for 30 seconds.
Do your children count?
Well, it depends on whether you're going to put them in the add or subtract piece.
It depends on the day.
The day. Depends on the day. There may be a given. There may be a given in there. Do they add, subtract, or multiply? All right. So when you look at that list, the first thing I'd like for you to do is not judge it. So if you have people on there that you spend a lot of time with that subtract from who you are, that's something for us to work on, right? But the fact of the matter is that sometimes we have people in our lives that subtract from our dreams. And that's where we get into a whole conversation about boundaries and how can we be in relationship without letting them distract from our why and where we're headed. But do you have multipliers? Do you have multipliers in your top 5? Do you have multipliers even in your top 10? These are people who know what you're about and are actively bringing you things. They're making connections to people inside your organization for projects that you want to work on. They're connecting you to people in the community that can help you live out your why, right? Do you have multipliers? Multipliers are the key. So this is a good thing for you to keep thinking about, is who are the multipliers in your life that are actually helping you move forward? Okay, so we've got our why, we've got our strengths, and now we've got the people around us that are going to help us get there. So we should be good to go, right? Like dreams achieved, things off the list, like we should be ready to roll, right? Well, sometimes this last pillar is the one that causes us the most problems. And this is our mindset, our brain. Our brain can get in the way, regardless of how successful we are in knowing our strengths, having people around us. If we aren't in the right frame of mind to go after the things that we want, we're going to be our own biggest barrier. So we're coming full circle on these pillars here. So let's talk about what that looks like. This is, I love this phrase. Consciousness is observing your thoughts and actions so that you can live from true choice in the present moment rather than being run by programming from the past. So much of what we do, and I think it's interesting, it came out in one of the breakout room groups too, that you kind of fell into things, right? So much of what we do is being run by programming that we are unconscious to. And that's not always a bad thing, right? But when we are letting it unconsciously drive our decisions in the moment, and it is keeping us from fulfilling our why, it is holding us back from our joy, then that past programming is not serving us. So one of the things that you will hear me talk about anytime you ever hear me show up is about journaling. And I'm going to get on the soapbox. I'm going to stand on the soapbox. I'm going to yell about it, because when we journal, that's the best possible way for us to actually observe those thoughts and determine whether or not they're helping us, right? Don't overcomplicate it. You're not writing a book. Just get out a piece of paper, get an old notebook, and just stream of consciousness, start writing things on a regular basis and find time to go back and look at them. Are you having thoughts that actually move you forward? Yes or no? All right. So let's talk about how some of this past programming shows up. Let's give an example. I'm going to talk to you about how to reframe your thoughts, and then we're going to practice it. So if there's a brave soul out there who has something you want to work through, get ready, because we're going to do a little bit of live coaching here and reframe a few things. So let me set this up for you. So reframing is really number one is actually recognizing the thought in the first place, right? That's why I talk about journaling. We all have thoughts that are hardwired, programmed in to our brains. We've known about them since we were kids. Might be something my art teacher said to me one time about me not being creative. There's a whole host of things that are happening up here. Some of them are great. Some of them are not. All right. So they are connected, however, to our brain and our body about how we show up in the way that we show up. So let's do an example. So let's say an event happens, a thought pops up. Well, for example, let's just use the last people example, right? So if we went through that exercise and realized that we don't have many multipliers in our top 5, and we have this thought suddenly of like, I don't have the support that I need. All right. So I have this thought, and that caused me to have a feeling, right? So when I have the thought, I don't have the support that I need, the feeling that shows up is what? Panic, right? I'm alone. I start to hustle. I start to, I just have this feeling of like, you can just feel it right here in your chest. I don't have the people that I need. What am I going to do? Right? So then that drives a really unproductive action where I start to hustle, right? I'm going to go find those people. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to figure this out. Or I just shut down and check out. I don't have what I need. I'm out. Nobody around to help me. Whatever. All right. So let's think about when that feeling happens, right? You have this negative thought that needs to be reframed. There's a feeling that goes along with that. Tell me in the chat, what is that feeling for you? For me, I notice my heart go boom, boom, like it's like a really deep, like motion. I can feel it. What is that for you when that kicks up? Anxiety. Like physiologically, what happens? Your ears ring. Ooh, that's an interesting one. Like a punch in the stomach. Your stomach drops. Maybe your hands get sweaty, right? Jittery, sick in the stomach. Anybody else blotchy? I have some friends that are like, they turn red, like the instant that happens, right? You can't hide it from anybody in a meeting. It's terrible, right? Crying, feeling helplessness. Yeah, head tingles, right? So we know what those feelings are, right? We know how that shows up in our body, and it's important that we pay attention to them. All right. So a lot of times what happens is we, especially in our professional careers, we get disconnected from our bodies while we're at work and don't pay attention to what's happening. Now, if I'm in a conversation with someone and I have this negative thought and I have this reaction where all of a sudden I start getting tunnel vision or I feel my heart do that skip a beat thing, that's my body saying, heads up, something different needs to happen here. Okay. So let's try that again. So I'm going to have this thought one more time. I don't have the support that I need. I notice that I'm having the heart thump. What if I actually intervened when I felt that heart thump? What if I was like, oh, hey, that's my thing, right? Like, I know that when I feel that I need to do something different. And then I shifted the thought and I said, okay, that's obviously triggering me. So instead of saying, I don't have the support that I need, what if I said, I do have the support that I need. I can find the support that I need. What happens, I've changed that thought, right? So now all of a sudden I'm feeling curious. I'm like, oh, like even slightly hopeful, like who do I know, right? Like, oh, so I don't have to do this alone. I actually, oh gosh, I'm on this webinar with all of these amazing women. Perhaps one of these amazing women can be one of my top 5. Shocker. That's why we're doing this, ladies, right? So we pull these resources together, and then here we go. I got a better result in action. Instead of me being stressed about the fact that I don't maybe have as many multipliers as I want, I don't have the support that I need, I'm going to go find it, right? I'm going to go find women that will build into me. I'm going to find people in my community that will build into me and help me get where I want to get. And that's very different than me hustling or shutting down or turning a blind eye to the way we do things, right? Thoughts, feelings, actions, understanding how your body reacts to that and responding and pausing and reframing. This is the single biggest thing that I teach in coaching that actually changes people's lives. Well, ladies, thank you so much for spending the time with us today. We have enjoyed it. Thanks for those of you that hung out even longer. That's awesome. Always great when people hang out even longer. So we appreciate you being here. And just want to say thanks. Petra, Kat, anything from you?
Stephanie, thank you so much. This session has been incredible. Thank you to everyone who hung on longer with us. We will be, planning future events. Nothing is on the books yet, but we will definitely let you all know. I will also hope to get this recording out to you all maybe tomorrow if I'm really on it, if not early next week. So I will definitely send you a recording of this information, and you can access all of this to look back later, and can continue to work on these things. So thank you so much, Stephanie.
So great. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
for
Have a
coming.
nice day too. Bye.
See ya.